District School Board meeting to order. Melissa is the only member that will not be with us this evening. Everyone else is present. Just going to note that this meeting of the Ripon Area School District Board of Education has been properly noticed in accordance with the open meeting law and State Statute 19.84 and all related legal references. We begin all of our meetings with reading our district vision statement. One of Wisconsin's finest school districts, fostering excellence for all through innovation.
No, let me just make sure we have everybody signed up.
Okay. All right, seeing as there are no public comments, we will move on. So it looks like we're up to announcements of contributions to the district.
We have a number of contributions. The first one is from the Foundation for the Ripon Medical Center. They donated just under $2,600 for 2 additional automated external defibrillators, or AEDs, one for Ripon High School and one for Barlow Park Journey. And I have a group here. I'll go through. These were each donations made to the Ripon Education Foundation Ingalls Field Group. So Alliance Laundry for $1,000, Silver Creek Dental for $4,000, Polash Construction for $2,000, Modern Overhead Door for $2,000, MPB Builders for $1,000, Mudrow Electric for $2,000, Holman Ford for $1,000, Brewer Heating for $10,000, Diedrich Insurance for $2,000. And then this next group all donated over $250 for the Ripon Education Foundation. Leanne Van Lenen, Huberty and Associates, Andreessen Roper, Stephanie Newman, Sean and Carissa Karsten, James Jentz, Cindy and Flip Cody, Tyler and Mary Whitrock, Devane Nelson, Andrew and Stephanie Krowitz, Lorene and Deanna Moon, Nevitt's Law Office, and Kim and Diane Shady. We're very thankful for all those donations.
Yes, thank you for all those who donated. We appreciate it. It looks like now we move on to a special presentation for our district audit.
Before we get back to the questions, do you know how we're situated for AEDs in the buildings around the district now? And if you don't, at some point I'm interested. It doesn't have to be tonight. I'm just curious where we are.
Yeah, I think Brian beat me answer that question.
So, I think your question was, where are we situated with AEDs? We have one, actually we have 3 of them in this building, along with Bill Kinziger's got some for athletics. And then Barlow's got one, Murray's got one, and then there's one down in Boyceville for our people's school.
Does that include the 2 new ones that just came in?
That does not include those ones. That's where our original setup is. Here we strategically have them on, every part of the building, so it's very easy access.
Thank you.
And then I think Bill's got 4 or 5 of them that are traveling, or coaches.
Thank you, Brian.
Thank you, Brian. Okay, forward to you.
All right, well, thank you for having me today. My name is David Finch. I'm the senior manager with Curtis Rose, the new audit firm that the district selected this last year. Myself, along with Christina Dahmer, I believe you met her during the proposal process for the audit this past year. We're very close to her team, along with Joanna and the rest of the business office, to conduct the 2021 audit. First of all, I just want to thank Joanna and the rest of the business office for their hard work on contributing to the audit. Anytime there's a new firm, both from our standpoint and the entity standpoint, it just creates a couple of additional challenges as we get to work with each other and know how to communicate with each other. But from our standpoint, everything went very smoothly. And we get to see the results of the audit. Everything went very well from our standpoint. So each of you do have two documents here. The smaller stapled document is the management communication letter. I'm not going to go into much detail in regards to this, but what this is basically a recap of what we did for our audit and how the audit went. There's a couple financial highlights in here, but I will cover those when I just cover the audit here. So when I refer to page numbers in the audit, I'm going to refer to different page numbers on the bottom. I'm going to start by looking at page 1. This is the independent auditor's report. This is why the district has an audit done. This is the report that gets issued with every audit that we do as a firm. This report talks about management's responsibility and ultimately your responsibility as management is sort of a greater presentation of these financial statements. Our responsibility as auditors is to express an opinion on these financial statements, which we did. It's the last paragraph on this page. It states that in all material respects, we feel that these financial statements are presented fairly. So in other words, this is a clean opinion. It's the highest level of assurance that we can provide on the financial statements. Touch base on a couple financial highlights. I just wanted to point out that starting on page 4 is where the basic financial statements start. Page 4 is your school lot financial statements. It's page 4 and page 5. These statements follow the full accrual basis of accounting, meaning that it's going to have all the district's capital assets, long-term debt, the pension plan, the OPEB plan. Not entirely the way that you function, the way that you see information on a monthly basis. So I just wanted to point those out, because those are annual financial statements. If we look at page 6, this is your governmental funds balance sheet. This is on a modified basis of accrual, so we're closely in line with how the district budgets. Just want to spend a little bit of time talking through this balance sheet here. If you look at the bottom, the total fund balance for the district was about $9.6 million at June 30th. This is up from about 8.4 last year. You'll be able to see that a little more visually in the next page. But overall, about a $1.2 million increase. This was largely due to the fact that the district was able to transfer a little over $800,000 to a long-term capital improvement fund this year. So planning ahead to fund future capital needs. When we look at your general fund, as auditors, Christine and I both benchmark general funds and fund balance when we're looking at the district as a whole. We work with 46 school districts in the state, so we get to see districts of all sorts of shapes and sizes. But the one thing that I like to do is look at the unassigned fund balance. The general fund being your main operating fund, the unassigned fund balance is truly your operating reserve. That's what you're going to have to get through a good portion of your upcoming year for your tax levy and a lot of your grant revenues start coming in. But at the end of 2021, that unassigned fund balance was about $5.7 million. Again, a nice increase from last year, which was about 5.6. The one thing we like to kind of use the benchmark is we like to look at 20 to 25% of your general fund expenditures. They have actually a good range for unassigned fund balance. In our opinion, and just in our work with the other districts, that's about a good balance to have to get through, so not the short-term borrow as you move through the year. But that 20 to 25% would be about 4.7 to 5.9 million. So your unassigned fund balance is right within that range. So in our opinion, the general fund is strong and it's got a lot of cash and resources to be able to fund the district. Page 8, just want to point out in here, this is where you can see that operating transfer to your long-term capital improvement fund. The overall fund balance increased by almost $1.2 million this year. Page 10, this is the fiduciary fund of the district. The district has a fund 73, which is the employee benefit trust fund. At the end of the year, there was a net position of about $1.4 million. This was an increase of about $175,000 from the prior year, largely due to investment earnings on the investments that are in that fund. Starting on page 12, through the rest of this document, or a good part of this document, are the footnotes. We simply support all of the numbers in the basic financial statements. There's 2 pages that I just wanted to point out for your reference on here. Another thing that I look at when I'm working with a lot lot of districts is what is the legal limit for the net margin. Your districts in the state of Wisconsin are able to have 10% of the equalized value of the district. At the end of the year, you get about 22 million net outstanding. That's largely underneath your actual limit of 79 million. So from a debt capacity standpoint, the district's well within its range. It's able to finance those expenditures on an annual basis. So everything looks good from our standpoint with that. Then on page 41, I just wanted to point this out. I think we look into the financial statements. Anytime there's a change in auditor, oftentimes there's a change in opinion. We look at things a little bit differently than other firms. We did have two restatements this year. That was due to Fund 21, the Special Revenue Trust Fund, which in turn impacted the school-wide financial statements. But we looked at that, and there was a long-term receivable booked out there that likely should have never been booked. There really wasn't a legal claim to the district to collect those funds. So we removed that from fund balance. And while we're at it, we just cleaned up a couple liabilities that were carrying out there. Not material to the financial statements, but we just corrected it all in the end of this year and make everything good going forward. So nothing to be alarmed by that. From our understanding is the district can still collect that money. There just wasn't a legal claim. So if that entity or individual chooses not to contribute, the district will be entitled to the recourse for that. All right. Moving on, just to point out, when we look at the basic financial statements, starting on page 52, this is the combining balance sheet for all the rest of the funds of the district. We're just required to present the major funds. The major funds are determined by the calculation that's prescribed by government accounting standards. On your basic statement, so all the combining information is back here, both the balance sheet and your statement of revenues, expenses, and changes in fund balance. And the last two things that I'm going to point out here to go through are other reports on issuing the financial statements, and those start on page 63. Page 63 is the independent auditor's report on internal control over financial reporting. As auditors, we're not required to audit your internal control, but we're required to take them into account when we're planning on performing the audit. And with that, anytime we identify an issue, we're required to evaluate it to see if it meets the definition of a material weakness, a significant deficiency, or simply just a verbal or written management point. We do have two findings that we consider significant deficiencies, and these are continuing findings that you've received for a number of years, and it's the lack of segregation of duties in financial reporting. These are very typical amongst all districts, even all governmental entities in the state of Wisconsin. They're listed in a little more detail towards the end of the financial statements, but I'll just provide some context to it right now. Lack of segregation of duties is simply because due to the number of staff at the district, you can't properly segregate all financial directors' duties. Even with the, even with having additional staff, sometimes boards say that they're going to hire somebody, train somebody to do additional duties. It really comes down to the ability of the team members that are working on it. So just because you have additional staff doesn't always mean that they have the ability, one, to perform that transaction, but two, most importantly, determine if something was incorrect. So that's why I always remind boards that it's very important that you guys review things, whether it's the receipts, disbursements, or making budget adjustments, so you truly understand things, you ask questions, you're thorough in your review, just to help safeguard the assets of the entity. And the other finding is the financial reporting finding. The standards changed a few years ago. They simply stated that you as an entity cannot prepare your financial statements one due to time or two due to expertise. You're required to either hire that service out to another accounting firm or receive this finding. 99% of the districts in the state of Wisconsin receive this finding just because it's not a cost benefit for the district. And there really isn't any ramifications for receiving this finding. So this just simply states that your auditor assisted with the preparation of financial statements. On page 65, this is the independent auditor's report on compliance with each major federal and state program. The district received about $2 million in federal aid this past year, and about $14 million in state aid this year. So both of those are over the threshold that would require a federal single audit and a state single audit. On the federal side, we audited the child nutrition clusters for the school lunch program. And on the state side, we tested 3 programs. So we did a lot of compliance tests, and I'm happy to note that this is a clean report. We didn't find any instances of non-compliance, so the control over the federal and state grants, as well as the compliance side of it, were all correct and met the definitions that were allowable. So that is all that I really wanted to point out in the financial statements. Does anybody have any questions? All right, well, if anything comes up, feel free to get those over to Joe, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that might come about either after the presentation or throughout the year.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Yeah. Seeing as we do not have our lovely student representatives this evening, we move on to our new business. So our first action item is to consider approval of the 22-23 school calendar. Can I get a motion to approve or to open up for discussion?
So moved.
Thank you, Andy.
Second.
Thank you, David.
It does look different than the calendar you saw last month, because in that time, we did a staff survey and we did a parent survey. And the largest comment or preference coming back was less of the early releases and less interrupted weeks, and moved to full days off where possible. And parent request was to align those elementary and middle school and high school schedules so that it's same across the district, which we were able to do. Attach days to other days off, if and when possible, or other holidays, Martin Luther and President's Day. Not always possible, but we did look at that. And then the other comment was not always Friday. Consider a Monday, especially for those families where their job requires them to do work over the weekend. So we tried to do what we could. We did send it out to staff, kind of the updated version, and talk through it with principals. So wanted to get that to you with those changes. It appears to be less student contact days, but those days all have more minutes in them because we don't have the late start or the early releases in there. So we still are meeting our required minutes. We just have more minutes in each of those days that are listed.
Yeah. So we do not have Wednesday late starts?
We haven't for the last 2 years. We went to those early releases, a combination of early releases and full days off. The elementary had the full days and high school, middle school had the early releases. And then this year what we did too, our BRAVE program offered care after the early releases as well as on the full days that we were off. And the feedback from BRAVE was that the full days are actually, they just seem to go smoother than the early releases, because once kids have gone through kind of what feels like a full day, even though they got out early, they're ready to be done and go home, and it's hard to get them started and fired up to do something in BRAVE. Whereas when the kids come in fresh and they have them for the full day, it just seems to go smooth. So they will still offer that care on those days that we are off of school for a full day.
And it's okay to be 173 contact days.
Yep, because
not the 180 because it's really 5 minutes.
5 minutes, yep, to meet our minute requirement.
I like that we surveyed the parents and the staff to see, we put first version and not this version, and really respond to what their feedback was.
That was good feedback, and we had lots of survey responses over, what is it, Jolene? 360 some?
Yeah, over 350 from the parents, and,
Yeah.
and staff was, I don't know what the count was, but it was very, very low. It was a pretty good response.
Cool. Anyone else have any questions or comments?
I guess I was just wondering, do we expect not to have snow days because of being able to have virtual instruction?
What's kind of nice about this, when we were doing the early releases, just the last 2 years with COVID and then recovering from COVID and just catching up kids and kind of figuring out where everyone is, we did have a lot more, we had those additional early releases for elementary, and pulling those out, there's actually probably about 4 more contact days with elementary. So if we do the virtual day, even though we're not getting a full day of work, we have plenty of minutes for elementary. And then at the high school, I think it's easier to interact with the kids and know what they can maybe do or accomplish on those days as well. Yeah.
So this was gonna come up later anyway on the curriculum stuff, but I don't understand how virtual days can really work when they're a surprise. Because certainly in the elementary schools, the kids generally aren't getting computers home. So a lot of them, there's no way they can do anything. Like the day we had this last time because of the water, nobody had anything at home.
And I think that's why we feel better about a calendar that has those additional minutes in. So we have plenty of minutes. I mean, we probably could even not do a virtual day on those days, but I know some parents do appreciate knowing some things they can do, but also to let parents know it's okay because we do have minutes. But because you're right, when it's a surprise, we don't have equity across all of the homes to know that everyone's getting the kind of support they need to use that day to the greatest extent possible.
So I guess to Gary's question, then are we leaning more towards not doing snow days anymore? Virtual? Or
Yeah, we will still, staff can still push out things for kids to do on those days, but if our elementary kids don't have computers, I think we have to realize that if they get some reading done at home or practice some of the things that they have, that's good. And if kids have computers at home, you know, it's nice for parents to know, oh yeah, you could do iReady for a half hour and do this.
Yeah.
But our high school kids do take their computers home every day, so they're prepared.
I guess I just wish COVID didn't take one more thing. Snow days were, you know, it's a snow day. You know, as a kid, it's nice to get a snow day. Okay, any other questions or comments? I'll call for the vote. Yeah, I can.
I'm not.
Okay, and that passes unanimously. All right, team, now we have to go through considering approval of the second reading of these recommended bylaw and policy revisions, which we did see a couple months ago. Does anyone have any questions or comments specific to any one of these policies? Okay. Seeing as there is none, and we do have to go through them for a motion and a vote for each one, I will take a motion to approve 7.2.
Move to approve 7.2.
Second.
Thank you, Nate. Call for the vote. And 7 in favor with 1 abstention. So now we are on to 7.3. Would like a motion?
So moved. Second.
Thank you, Nate. And thank you, Andy. I'll call for the vote. And that passes unanimously. Again, for 7.4, please.
Move to approve 7.4.
Thank you, Gary.
Second.
Thanks, Andy. I'll call for the vote. Next up is 7.5.
Move to approve 7.5.
Thank you, Gary.
Second.
Thank you. I will call for the vote. And that too passes unanimously. We are on to 7.6. I'll need a motion.
Move to approve 7.6.
Thank you, Gary.
Second.
Thank you, Andy. You guys are doing a lot of heavy lifting out there. I'll call for the vote. Okay, and that passes unanimously. We are at 7.7 for the second readings. I'll ask for a motion.
Move to approve 7.7. Second.
Thank you, Gary. Thank you, Andy. I'll call for the vote. That passes unanimously. 7.8.
Move to approve 7.8. Second.
Thanks, Gary. Thank you, Andy. Call for the vote. That too passes unanimously. And 7.9.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, Nate. Thank you, Gary. I will call for the vote. And that too passes unanimously. Did you say that?
Yes.
Good news, the second reading action items will be on the consent agenda next month instead of doing these individually. Andy and Gary and Nate, we have a break. All right, we're moving on to the consent agenda. Anyone see anything on the consent agenda that they would like removed? Seeing as there's none, I'd like a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
So moved.
Thank you, David. Oh, thank you. Josh, thank you very much. I'm calling for the vote. And the consent agenda passes unanimously. Next up is our possible upcoming action items.
Been working with busing a lot this year, and one of the things we realized is that so much of our knowledge and information about busing is just assumed that people know. We didn't really have a handbook to hand to a family who's never dealt with busing before to know kind of how it works, and so there may be some refining before we approve in January, but we wanted to get a draft out and be able to say to a new family, this is how busing works, and kind of what they can expect. So. It's been a really nice year in terms of our collaboration with the bus company, although busing continues to be a challenge with the bus driver shortage. Here.
The only thing that I didn't understand, there's a section called alternate busing information, and there's a reference to the
Oh, yeah, see, we're updating it, working off of previous ones. I will fix that.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you. It's not a TV station.
Yeah.
Thank you. I thought maybe you were volunteering to sign up for the class in January to get your CDL license.
Well, I tried to get other people to do that.
That's good, that's good.
I was wondering if this is another one that you might run by some parents just to see
Yeah,
if they have a question.
some of our families that work on it, and, yeah.
comments regarding the school bus and parent student handbook? Okay. We'll move on to our superintendent reports.
Making a note about the bus. Just information on there with our IDEA determination. We're sitting good with that. And then the COVID update. I reviewed with masking, just providing you with our numbers. Where we're at, our target was to get closer to 350. We were down into the 4s, and then we kind of jumped back up, so monitoring that as we move forward. Probably most significant is that we are working to switch over to NOAA as our provider. We've been using the Lake County Health Department for our testing. And that the main difference, we still offer the same kind of tests, but with COVID Connect, every time you want to have a test, you register, and so you go in fresh, register, put in name, information, symptoms, all of those things, get your unique code, and move forward. With NOAA, families will register once and provide that kind of formal consent through that process, put in their information, contact information, all of that. Then on the day that a student may need to be tested, either the parent can call or the nurse can call home to make sure there's that contact with the parent, find out when symptoms started, and then the nurses go in and just put in that additional information. So it's less of that going online and doing that registration for families once they're in. They will do a unique registration for each member of their family that they want tested with a username and password, and they can use some kind of a system so they remember who everybody is and what those logins are. And we'll just do that check-in at the time of the test to make sure verbally parents are okay with us testing and when the symptoms are and those kind of things. So that'll be nice, and we are told that we will have better turnaround time with the PCR tests that are sent off, which is something that we would like to be able to do. We do have our 2 testers that are provided through NOAA, so we don't pay for those 2 individuals to be on site. So we know we have capacity for them to do more tests while they're there, so we are willing to test, broader within the community as needed. We've never turned anyone away, and certainly if someone comes that's distantly connected to the school district, even that I'm a taxpayer, I live in the district, we're going to test them, which is really nice to be able to offer. And then our 2 testers, they've done a really nice job, and they've been willing to do some evening hours, and so that's something we're going to be able to do tomorrow night from 4 to 6 for families, especially if they want to test before they may see other family members over the holiday. And then we thought it was really important to have some evening hours on Sunday before they would come back, so that they can, check in if they're not feeling well, kind of how that is. You get worn down on the weekend, and about the time that everything's closed, you're like, it would be really nice to know before we send you to school where you're at. So from 4 to 6 on that Sunday before we return, we'll open up and offer some testing too, which I think will be really nice for families.
So testing is just tomorrow,
Well, it's all throughout the day,
Okay.
too. On Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, but some additional evening hours. We don't normally have evening hours, but sometimes that's easier for everyone to come down at once.
Okay, so we'll be closed then during winter break.
During winter break, yeah.
Okay, so the days before they come back. Are these posted on like our Facebook page and stuff when we have extra hours or different?
We sent out a notice to families that they would have the additional information.
It's great.
It's also on the COVID testing page of our website.
You could put it on the newspaper as well.
We might put something on our Facebook page tomorrow, just to let people know the extended 4 to 6.
Yeah.
Sure, yeah.
And then
And then that Sunday one too.
the
should
community
probably
is
get out
certainly,
there,
community is certainly welcome.
for sure.
It keeps us all healthy. And now we do have some capacity with 2 testers.
Awesome.
When it was just me, not so much.
A little tough.
And then we have appointment of our WASB delegate. We talked about it a little bit last month, and our convention is right around the corner.
Is anyone interested in being the delegate assembly?
Oh, who's all even going to the conference this year? There's, or at least for one day, Andy is.
Sounds like you better be our representative, Andy.
Yeah.
Did you ever do it?
No.
It's fun.
Come on, you've been doing it forever. How could he have done it?
Oh, yeah, we do.
Well, I thank you.
I can walk out of line, right?
Sure.
Crazy stuff already.
Only if you bring us back all the toys that they have there. Lots of freebies.
And it'll be nice to be back face to face. We were virtual last year.
Thank you, Mary. Looks like we are now on to curriculum department highlights for December. Does anyone have any questions or comments for Chrissy?
It's just great seeing the U.S. News, which we talked about before, the rankings, in the top listing, which is wonderful. It's quite a tribute to our staff and administration they've done to get that honor. And I also appreciate the good job we do celebrating that success. Seeing the pictures and so forth, that's awesome. So thank you for your efforts.
We realized as we went through and just looked at the data that, you need to be in the top 30% to be ranked, but both our schools were in the top 10%. So
Wow.
that was really exciting.
All right, we'll move on to our business-related reports. First up is our general fund interim budget. Anyone have any questions about that document for Jonah? Our annual Ingalls Field update.
I don't have a question, but I just want to shout out the Eagles Field Group led by Tom and Sherm. I mean, they've done an amazing job raising money and improving that facility for the community.
Very exciting. We had talked, I think it was already last spring and moving into the summer of just kind of doing that master planning and collaborating with the college. And we did start, we kind of stopped then when COVID we thought was kind of gone, then it came back and kind of took things over for both the college and the district. We have recently reconnected to get that group going again. CG Schmidt's interested in partnering with us because they've helped us in the past, and PRA is going to work to expand that master plan, and we connected on that. So in January, we'll be getting that larger Ingalls Field group together, and there'll probably be some community engagement sessions to just talk about what we want it to look like and how we'll meet the needs of the community. And it's fun because I know that the city is looking to hopefully do some road improvements, and they're looking at some grants, and if those go through, that would allow the district and the college to do some of those additional things, like nice lighting and more entranceway things, and add some safety features. So we're really excited about that, and that'll get started again here in the spring. So more to come on that. But it's always nice to get input from the community on those things because it belongs to them. So we may not have 25 engagement sessions like we did for our schools, but we'll have at least a few.
Any questions or comments about the food service budget report? We'll move on to our school operations report. As always, thank you so much for putting these all together for us. Anyone have any specific comments or questions about any of it? Okay. Well, that looks like we need to move into the closed session.